Hey, this is Nili Brosh, and you're watching the Guitar Autopsy.
All right, well, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a great day. How's things going?
Great. How about you?
Oh, just hanging in there, trying to get things rocking and rolling
Yeah,
and
feel you.
get my day going.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach, what about yourself?
Oh, that pretty much is all I have going on today.
Yeah? All
Yeah,
right.
it's a pretty good day.
Nice.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what you've been up to lately.
Let's see. During this, you want to say hi? No, it's not really in the shot. So with this pandemic, I've just been kind of passing the time doing the same stuff that everybody else is, I guess, working on new music and putting out videos and doing all the stuffs and booking new things and all the stuff now. And I played on Danny Elfman's new album that just came
That's
out.
cool.
And
That's super cool.
yeah, so that was the big thing that I'd been working on like last year, and when everything was kind of shut down and we weren't able to do our regularly scheduled programming. So
That's cool. How do you get in the channels to even get a gig like that?
I don't know. They called me and just some random person that I don't know, like went to school with my brother or something like that, like knew of me and like put my name in the hat for it or something like that. And I didn't even know who the person was. And then they just it was just the randomness call that I ever got, It was just one of those things where it was like already after 10 p.m. and I got a call from like a number I didn't know. And I was just like, I literally had that thought of like, oh, if it's a gig, they'll leave a message, and then of course, the second I said that, I had the thought like, it never is, you know what I mean? And then I listened to the voicemail and I'm like, what? So I went in and auditioned, and the whole point was to join the band and orchestra that were doing the Coachella show. So that's what I actually originally got hired to do. And I was the last band member to be hired. I was there for a rehearsal and a half, basically, before everything shut down.
Wow.
But we kind of quickly became a real band out of it, because just out of the camaraderie of having this taken away from us together and crying together and doing all this stuff, he was already thinking oh, maybe we'll make a record over the summer. Maybe we'll, I know how disappointed he was. So, so this album really came out of it, which probably wouldn't have happened otherwise, because he had other plans for 2020. So that was my gift, my blessing out of that time, because I very narrowly, I almost missed it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If he could have just as easily decided we're not hiring another person now because this thing's about to get canceled. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
I also see that you were in Cirque du Soleil. How was
Yeah.
that? That must have been really crazy.
So I was in their Michael Jackson show, and it's it's very much a Cirque show, but it's also largely based on the dancing and all the Michael-esque aspects of it. So for that particular show, it's a resident show in Las Vegas. It's in Mandalay Bay, and we didn't have a band. There was no band. It's not that kind of pit situation thing going on. It's more there's dancers and acrobats and all this stuff, and two musicians in the show. So it would be a guitar player and then a female vocalist, and we're both characters, except she's on this crescent moon sitting and kind of riding above the stage for the entire show, or they bring her on and off, and I'm actually on stage running around with the rest of the characters and all that stuff. So it wasn't I had to read and be in the pit, and it wasn't anything like that. It was very much wear this crazy costume and heels and play this difficult shit running around and climbing things and whatever, and then do that 10 times a week, 48 weeks a year, so it was just it was just a lot, but it was a super fun experience, and I had castmates from all over the world, and there's so many people working in that one building, and you can't really have weak links because otherwise the show just doesn't operate. There's too much stuff going on, and there's like all kinds of safety things you have to know about. And so like just the amount of talent of all across the spectrum of different kinds of talents, they were all there.
Right.
It's just amazing.
I was going to say, I mean, it looks like, I mean, looking at some of these photos, you've got like rockets shooting out of your guitar, like Ace Frehley style. And then I can imagine like you have to be at the right place. Otherwise you'll get burned or somebody will get like hurt or something.
Absolutely.
You know?
I mean, but you know what, like, it's not just my responsibility. Like there's a whole team that's watching and they're the ones firing the actual pyro. I have to just stand in the right spot and point at the right spot. And if they see somebody that shouldn't be standing where they should not be standing, it just doesn't fire. You know, there's someone always keeping watch. And also it doesn't happen because everybody knows what they're doing and it's so freaking repetitive. So, yeah, but it got to the point where I was just kind of like standing in place, looking over, making sure it goes off, and then just kind of like looking away and just maybe like checking on it, making sure that it's still there, and then I'm not moving or I'm still aiming at it. But they would tell you too, you know, like if there was one night that I was kind of like off or whatever, they would say, hey, you know, you're starting to like hit the, like there's like a structure behind it, you know.
Yeah.
Please
so
don't set the building on fire if you can help it.
Right. Yeah.
It was a 30-foot arc of fire. So I think my way of dealing with it was to like pretend that it's not as big of a deal as it really is. It's not as dangerous as it really is, and just be like, no, it's cool, you know. But if I really thought about it, then it's just like, yeah, you know, that's actually kind of nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy. So in that sense, you had to be more than just a guitar player.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, it's like more. Being in a play or, you know, it's a production role,
absolutely.
Right? You know, how was that whole
theater life?
How was a rehearsal for that? Like,
we had
how about like the first couple of rehearsals? How was that? That had to be pretty intense, trying to get everything right, you know?
Yeah, it was. I mean, they kind of got you in there like in stages, you know. So I learned all the blocking and all the, you know, all the moves by myself with the dance instructor. So we would do that first in the dance studio. Then we moved it to the stage, and then we would move it to the stage, and I would have a fitting at the same time. So now I'm doing it in the costume, and then eventually you bring the rest of the cast for rehearsals, and then you know. So it's just like, and you have 3 weeks of this whole process, and actually the most of that time is used to teach you the makeup because you're doing that yourself every night. So that's as far as like skills that you didn't think you'd need as a guitar player type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's completely useless to me now because it's not like I'm some expert on makeup or anything like that. I just knew how to like paint my face with those particular colors for that particular you know, character. And then so it's just kind of like, and you don't keep the makeup either, so it's really pointless.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's totally crazy. Sounds like a lot of fun though. So how did that gig come about?
So that was one that actually I kind of circled around with for several years before I got it. Like I ended up going for it 3 different times from way back in the beginning when they were creating it. They had sent this online pamphlet, or not pamphlet, like a flyer. Sorry, they sent that around, and it was just like looking for a female guitar player, and had this very like Jennifer Batten-esque kind of a thing that they're obviously looking for, and so everyone in my life saw that and sent it to me. And so I just like went through the process, sent them the videos, and I was a finalist. And then Gina Gleason was the original guitar player. And she was there for a while, and she created the character, and she did like thousands of shows. And like, there's so much that I owe to Gina because she had to deal with so much that I never did, and I never did because of her. So, you know, she's like the true trooper in that gig. But yeah, and so it just kind of like circled back a few years later, and then like finally, like the last time I auditioned, they had actually flown me out to Vegas to do the thing for real, and I felt like, okay, this in-person thing, you kind of make more of an impression and all that. So.
Sure, that's cool. So now should I know who Gina Gleason is?
She plays in Baroness.
Oh, okay. Do you know that band? That's a band, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of clueless. Sorry.
That's okay.
Zach, do you know Baroness?
I don't know.
Really?
Now I'm gonna Google it.
Why don't we know who that is?
Oh man, you would dig it.
Well, I'm gonna check it out now.
Player.
So tell me about it. What are they like? Is it like a metal band? Or?
Oh, I know this band. Yeah, okay.
Do I know who they are?
You call it?
No,
I mean, it's not really,
you might not.
I don't know that it falls under. It's like it's not power metal and it's not really death metal. It's like I don't know. What would you call that particular brand of?
I mean, it's just I would just say metal. I don't know. I don't really get into like all the subgenres.
Okay.
They came through town here once, and a couple buddies of mine had me go to the show with them. I just couldn't, but I had never heard of them before that. You know, the guy that I was teaching at the time was like a huge fan, and then I taught him like one song, but that was it. But they're good. I didn't know that they had I didn't know that she was their guitar player though.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, I mean, I don't want to like speak for her, but she left Cirque to join that band, and I think it was like her favorite band, so she was like, I'm out. You know what I mean? Right. So I think it must
be.
So she wasn't the original guitar player in that band.
No, I guess not.
I got you. Okay.
It must be a pretty cool gig if you're going to leave Cirque du Soleil for that.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, they're a great band, and they do a bunch of great gigs. So
yeah, that's cool for sure.
And honestly, she did thousands of those shows. I don't think anything new was you know what I mean? It's just like at that point, it's so repetitive, right. and it's really hard on the body. That's the other thing. Like it's like it's just brutal. So.
Crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, just from you can't mess up. You know what I mean? Like everybody has to do exactly what they're supposed to do, and if you do it different, they're going to be like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Right.
I had so many random moments that like you wouldn't think about happening in like other gigs necessarily, like because of just all the obstacles that you need to go through just to get to the stage. Like we would have these, they call them pods, but they were basically like elevators that took you like up to the stage from below so that you just appeared. And like getting to the pod room, you had to climb like basically a ladder, so I'm climbing with a very heavy guitar and like in heels and everything. And so I'm always like, I'm clumsy as it is. And so I'm always like hitting something, knocking something over, whatever. So there were so many times where right as I'm getting into the elevator and I'm like about to start playing, I hit my funny bone on my right hand. It's been like a couple of times. And I'm just like, it's like blinding, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I managed to, like, the crazy thing is like you can play through it. Like your muscles are able to do all the same stuff that you're used to doing. But it feels like, like death. It's so horrible. And I don't think I would have remembered if it didn't happen more than once, but I specifically remember that being a thing. But luckily it happened on like They Don't Care About Us, so one of these like rowdy songs that I could like be full like skank face and like express the pain. So,
that's crazy.
That's hilarious.
But that was what was fun about that gig, is that like you had all these like funny mishaps that are not your typical road stories, but they're just so like unique to that gig, so it was fun, like wig mishaps and all kinds of stuff. Falling on stage many times, eating shit. Yeah.
You fell on stage?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How do you recover from that?
Huh?
How do you recover from that? You just get up and keep going.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. There's one that I have a video of, and I don't think there's like any sound because you couldn't get footage or anything. We just had like rehearsal footage, or like we had footage of the show, but you could watch it on the TV there or whatever. So, and so it looks like I knew that I had just fell on my own because it doesn't take much for me I can trip over myself. But it looks like, because I was fist bumping a castmate at that moment, so it looks like they tripped me. And then there's like such a slow burn, like getting up because you can see how heavy all the gear is, and I'm like trying to turn over this like huge heel just to get my foot on.
Oh man!
Nobody helped you?
No, they're all doing their thing.
Right? Yes. So like, you're on your own.
All juggling like hats with each other.
There's not a fall crew to help everybody get back up when they fall.
Oh no, it's not. No, but there's, like I said, there's always someone watching you, so they do see everything. And like the second that something like that happens, you finish your cue, and stage management calls you up, and they're like, "Hey, we saw you take a spill there. Are you sure you're okay?"
Yeah.
So
we got a guitar player down. Right?
Yeah, no, we were looked after.
Yeah, that's
or over, or however you want to think about it.
So as rehearsed as it is, there's always those moments of improvisation, right?
If that's how you want to call it, yeah.
Right.
Sure.
It's how you do it.
I like how you spin that. It's improv.
Yeah, it's improv.
Yeah, I like
right?
that way of thinking about it. We definitely had to find the moments to, or I found them, had to find the moments to improv, even if it wasn't in the playing.
Yeah.
You know, there was so much to play around with for that character. Like the Dirty Diana act, for example, was like a pole dancing act, and she was the Dirty Diana character. Was like this, like I was supposed to be like the good character, and she was supposed to be an evil character, right? So I'm all in gold, and I'm supposed to be the muse, sun character, and she's like a devilish red outfit kind of thing. And so we have a duel, like that whole song is like kind of a cat and mouse type of thing where we're chasing each other around the stage and around the different poles and stuff, and like. I really played with that like as much as I could, and they were always like, for whatever reason, I don't know, that was always like my best friend. So we always just, you know, whoever was that girl at that moment happened to be a good friend of mine, and so we always kind of like went overboard and played it. And you know, you can like really overplay that stuff and not worry about it being overdone because it's such a big stage and there's so much going on and like people are far from you and you're in full makeup and everything that you kind of have to, you know, you may as well overdo it. You don't need to be reeled back. So
there's so much going on, right? It's hard to catch everything at every moment.
Yeah, that's, I guess, apparently like the characteristics of a Cirque show is there's like a million things going on always.
Right. That's crazy. You ever seen one of those, Zach?
No.
I
don't know if I could handle it. I'd probably have like a panic attack watching it.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
You ever watch that scene in I think in Knocked Up where they go see Cirque du Soleil, but before the show they did like a bunch of mushrooms?
Oh, you know what? I don't remember if I've seen that actual movie, but I know that they go to the Beatles Love Show, which is like I can see why they chose that one because it is the one that you like go to stoned or
it's like trippy.
Yeah,
like, I'm freaking out, man. Like that probably be me.
So I guess I could see how you could have a panic attack during that, but like that's definitely the right show to see because I mean it's the Beatles. It's like super colorful and trippy as it is. It's like and their stage, they have a cool theater. They have a circular stage in the middle, and the audience sits around it. So kind of like wherever you're sitting, you're getting like a different view, and really interesting.
Very cool. So let's talk about guitars a little bit. What are you playing these days?
So I guess my main axe really right now is my RG 550 Genesis collection. That was kind of like always the guitar that made me want to be an Ibanez artist, but I never had one growing up, you know, and then like when they reissued it and I was just like, oh my God, you know, now's the time. So I've had a hard time parting from it since I got it a couple years ago. And it's just, I don't know, it feels versatile to me. You know, I feel like I can get different things out of it and it's always comfortable to me. And like, there's a lot of things that I could do on it, but I was having a harder time with the 7-string, you know, for example, or whatever. So,
is that your yellow one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the yellow one's sweet.
Yeah, thanks. And then like ever since I got the yellow pickups in there too, it's like really.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Is that the fluorescent yellow kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I used to have one of those years ago.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like it's such a classic Ibanez, and I think it meant something to a lot of people, and I see the reaction, how much people love that guitar now, you know, like it's
I think a lot of people associate it with you though.
That's good, you know, why not?
Like for example, you did like a collaboration video with some other guitar players, and I sent it to my brother, and he was watching it, and you know, he gave a couple of things like, oh, this person did a really good job, this was really cool, and he was like that one chick with the yellow guitar though, that was sick. And so like, and I was like, yeah, of course. And I told him who you were, and he's like, oh, well, yes, smart.
Thanks, man. Well, that's good. You know, I mean, yeah, that's funny that you said. I had an audition recently where the artist like said to like, I didn't get it. I can't really talk about it, right? But it's just like, but the person just said to me like, wow, I love that guitar. Like, it's just like, I'm here, you know, like it's yeah. So, but
like, but I'm not here because you didn't hire me.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he respected the thought behind, like, you know, I have enough like courage to show up like that. You know what I mean? Especially because it wasn't like necessarily the kind of music that you would expect a guitar like that. So I thought that he was going to take it the other way, but I was surprised to hear that. So I was like, all right.
So with the tones, I mean, you've been playing this guitar a while, right? And you can get all kinds of like different cleans and everything like that. So what are you playing through now?
Well, so I have a variety of things that I'm doing. So my main amp has been for a long time the PVJ-SX.
Okay.
And I use an Ignator Tourmaster cab with it, just like a 2x12. And then I have my Headrush pedal board, which has gotten me out of like so many problems. You know, it's been a solution to a lot of things, and I've done a lot of recording with it. And I do use it on certain gigs when it makes more sense to do that. And so it's just kind of been like depending on the situation with those two things.
Yeah, Zach uses a Headrush, isn't that what you just got?
Yeah,
Zach?
I always wanted one. What'd you say?
Did you just get the gig board or pedal board or?
No, I got the whole board.
Oh, nice.
The full pedal board. Yeah.
How are you digging it?
I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
It has really streamlined my recording process when, you know, working on
it spoils you that way.
with demos and stuff like that. I don't have to like dial in. Yeah, I don't have to do like the VST route and try to like do stuff after the fact that I hate. And then I also don't have to like mic up something. You know, I can just plug it directly in, and it's so nice.
It really, really spoils you that way.
I am. And then I use it for teaching, you know, because you can do different set lists. So I've got a teaching set list where I have all my tones for that, you know, cleans and crunches, you know, because you're not always playing metal. But then in the actual like recording set list, I have everything laid out. I even got bass tones in there too, because your bass can plug into it and come through too. So it's just really friggin' sweet. It's made my life easy.
Yeah, I'm not big on all the plugins. I can never seem to get anything dialed in with those.
Yeah, I'm not into the plugins mostly.
Yeah,
no, I've tried.
I mean, there's ones that I like and I could see myself using, but just as like a way of, it's like it doesn't match the way I think in my head. You know, like just I don't know. You know, I grew up playing amps. You know, and there's only so much that I'm willing to get away from it, I guess, you know?
Yeah, it's the weird. Oh, no, the weird thing about plugins for me is that I can't stand the way they sound generally coming out of my monitors. I don't like a lot of, it's hard for me to find just about anything that I like the sound coming out of the monitors. Mm-hmm. So I generally always have a cabinet plugged in here too, so I can hear, I'll listen to my cabinet and not listen to what's actually coming in and being recorded. But even like when I use a plugin, if I have to use a plugin, generally it's hard for me to record with it. But then when I listen back to the playback, it doesn't sound like it sounded when I recorded it. That's the weird thing. I don't know if you guys ever experienced that.
Well, that's actually what I was going to say was I think they're good. I think the VSTs are useful as like a supplement after the fact. Maybe if you want to like maybe add a little delay or a little bit of extra reverb that you didn't have in your initial tone, but to use it as your main tone is so hard to dial in anything that's usable. And so, but again, like, you know, one time I sent out a solo and I didn't put enough delay on there, you know, just because I thought it sounded like it, but they were like, oh, we can add a little more. I said, well, just throw on a digital delay and call it good. And it sounded just fine, you know, but it wasn't didn't change the tone, I guess, which is good.
Yeah, so, for sure. So, I mean, I'm using a Kemper now, and even with the Kemper, I've got the Kemper going direct, but I still have my cab going here because I prefer the sound of the cab.
Yeah. A lot of people like that route of it too, is like using a modeling thing and having a cab also.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It feels real. It
definitely adds to the realness factor.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier than having one of these heads cranking all the time at you know, all times of day and night. So and it's also, I mean, I don't know, like I guess I have the AC going always, but it's just like the more hot gear in the room. I live in Las Vegas, you know, and in the summer it's just like if I'm in the middle of the day, like in the studio working and the sun's, it's like, It's I'm in Texas. Yeah, I'm in Texas, so I can relate.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's even worse because you guys have humidity.
That's why I've got my little fan pointing at me all the time. I always have to have my fan pointing at me because that the light's here and then your computer's running and that's pushing out heat and then
exactly.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's like there's only so much that you should be able to it's like with talking about having to be all the different things. It's just like, but then you're suffering too because you've got a lot of stuff on.
Yes, that's for sure, man. Oh. Yeah, it gets pretty brutally hot here. I don't know what it does in Vegas. I mean, I don't know which is worse, the humidity or dry heat.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just used to it now, but I feel like the dryness makes it a lot easier. I feel like the same temperature with humidity is like, I feel like it's harder to breathe or something.
That is true, because I always talk about it here when they do the weather. They'll say, well, it's 99 degrees, but it feels like 120. It's like, so
exactly.
Clothes like stick to you and it's
exactly it doesn't feel like that in the dry heat. You're like, I mean, you need to remember to drink a shit ton of water, but you're not sweating, and like if you're drinking enough water, you're definitely peeing a lot, but you don't feel like, oh, I'm all like gross and like it's not the same.
It promotes a lot of bad hair days.
But you know what, to be fair, we really don't go outside that much in the middle of summer, like in the middle of the day or anything, so
that's true.
Poor dog gets his walks early and late.
Does it get cool out there at night?
It can't. I mean, in the summer sometimes, and depending on where you are and how close to the mountains, or if you're like trapped in the valley, obviously, but in the winter it could be like pretty cold. I mean, it's a desert, so
because like here in Houston in the summer, it's like 3 a.m. and it's still like 95 degrees.
We definitely have that a lot, but sometime maybe towards the fall where it's still like really hot out during the day and it's maybe cooler at night. But again, it's like right now I'm staying like near the mountains and there's this breeze always.
Oh, nice.
And sometimes it's like a really warm breeze, and then other times you really feel like it brings down the temperature quite a bit. So
that's pretty cool for sure. So I was listening to your version of Alien hip hop. It was pretty nice. Good job.
Thanks, man. Virgil sure messed that up for me to enjoy, right?
What happened?
No, I just mean like he added a bunch of like new sections and a new like set of quirks in there to just make it a lot easier than that song already was. You know what I mean? So, and
gotcha.
it's like,
I didn't. Okay, so I have to say I didn't know that Virgil played on it. I have the audio version of it only, so I didn't know.
Got it. Okay, so basically, he wrote it. It's like an old song that he had recorded a bunch of times, like with a bunch of different bands or whatever.
Planet X. I've heard the Planet X version.
Different iterations and stuff. So this version is just like longer and crazier, and and I just like got used to it over time and never played it live because even he wouldn't. He was just like, I was like, come on, why don't you like just come down and like just play that song with us or whatever. He's like, I'll play A Matter of Perception. I'm like, come on, man. So, but I know that I think he does that version with his band.
Well, I've only heard the Planet X version.
Okay, so you'll hear like this version.
It's definitely different.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that he was on it. Who else plays on it?
Anthony Crawford is his bass player, and then Alex Argento is the keyboard player.
Okay, so because it didn't sound like Derek.
No, it wasn't Derek. Yeah,
he's cool. So it's pretty cool playing with those guys, right?
Yeah, it's like it definitely like taught me a lot, and like I met those guys when I was so young and like completely inexperienced and stuff. So it just like really like they probably taught me more than anybody else just because I was around that,
Sure, those guys are intense musicians. I played on one of Derek Sherinian's albums, Molecular Hanosity.
He's definitely a great writer.
Yeah, it was a great experience. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I forgot what we were talking about, and he said, "Yeah, you're wearing pinstripes now," and I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "Well, now it's like you're in the Yankees, And I was like, "Okay." He was like, once you play with Dream Theater, you play everything at a certain level now, and you can't go back.
Oh, that's funny.
So, all right.
That's cool. Yeah.
It was definitely an interesting experience because I recorded all my stuff from my house here in Houston, and I didn't know anything about recording, and I don't even remember what I had for a DAW then. It might have been a version of Pro Tools, I can't remember. And he had his producer or engineer on Skype, and he was telling me every button to push and I had to mic up the cab and run it in the other room. And
wow.
I mean, everything, you know, I had to do everything that way and record and then try to be creative and improvise and do all my parts. It was definitely a learning
That's
experience.
stressful.
Oh yeah.
And that's not like a zero pressure project to be like diving into like that, right? So
yeah. I mean, it was a little bit easier because I pretty much wrote the song, and then, you know, it was a song that I had left over from my old band Outworld. And then, you know, I gave it to him, and he kind of made some arrangement changes, and it became what it was. And, you know, obviously he added all of the Derek-isms to it and all that great stuff. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a big learning experience for sure. Kind of throws you right into it, you know. Okay, all right, hit this button, now go.
Right.
Like, what am I doing? He goes, oh, just keep going. Just never mind. We'll cut that stuff out later and do this and that. And it's like, all right. So.
But you know, it's like, I don't know. I've learned that those experiences are the ones that lead to the quickest and biggest growth spurts, you know, where you're just like, you don't even feel like you're really improving or doing anything. You just feel like somebody else is like asking you to do all these things and you're like, I can barely do it, you know, and then weeks later you go back to the same stuff and you're like, oh my God, I'm better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it looks like it says here that you had a band with your brother and you guys opened for Yngwie for a while.
Yeah, that was in 2013. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Did you were you on the Houston tour when they played through Houston on that?
He did that with another band for like some of the dates, and I mean my brother did, and I don't think I went to Texas with them.
Because I remember seeing your brother.
Yeah,
I went and saw that gig. Yeah, I saw that gig, and I remember seeing your brother. I didn't see him play, but I remember seeing him running around the vineyards.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. I just remember that like that tour was routed so ridiculously that like we kind of even had to split it up because it was just there was so much back and forth and routing that didn't make sense. So yeah. I remember a lot of long drives, but yeah.
I remember talking to the guy that booked the show, and he was talking about Yngwie, and Yngwie demanded a 6-foot mirror in all of his dressing rooms. And
I remember there being a lot of mirrors. That's funny that you say that.
Yeah, and they kind of got into it about it. So he ended up finding a 6-foot Barbie mirror. that was his mirror. So it's like, okay, that's you know, it's like, well, here's your 6-foot mirror, dude. Here's how about some Barbie.
That's an interesting rider, you know.
Yeah. I've got to have a 6-foot mirror.
Yeah.
So with that, did you get to like hang out with Yngwie at all, or was it pretty much you were just cut off from that side?
I mean, we were kind of cut off, you know, but I didn't meet him the whole tour. I just kind of like really kept to myself, and it just seemed like he wasn't, you know, he was like, he would give you like the horns or something, but you know, I just kind of felt like it's probably better to just
chill,
fly low under the radar.
Yeah. So you and your brother both did the tour, but not at the same time.
No, we did. It's just that he had another band for part of the tour that I wasn't a part of.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool.
Seems like you've done a lot of stuff, you know, like
somehow, I think. Yeah, and I still feel like I'm always slacking off. So
you played.
Something's wrong with that. But
you played in the Iron Maidens.
Yeah, that was like my first gig out of Berklee.
Okay, so funny story. One of my students that I teach on Skype is a guy named Stan Leonard. Mm-hmm. Do you know who Stan is? Mm-mm. Well, he said he met you. He was your Uber driver to one of the shows in Vegas or something like that, because he lives in Vegas.
Really?
He said he picked you up and y'all were talking and started all of a sudden talking about guitar stuff.
That must have been, that must have been in the beginning.
Well, it was a long time ago.
I was still taking Ubers.
Yeah.
Must have been, I just moved here probably, but that's really funny. I don't remember that, but
yeah, it's crazy.
That's cool.
Yeah, and also I wanted to, next time you talk to your brother, tell him I said thanks, and thanks for, a few years ago, I was at NAMM and I was doing a signing at SIT Strings, and I just got finished, and your brother walked by and he said, dude, Holdsworth is right down there.
Oh, yeah.
So I hauled ass down and got to see Holdsworth, and that happened to be the same year that he passed away.
Oh, man, yeah.
So it was, I was so glad to have, that he told me he was down there. Cause
he actually passed away like the day that I moved here.
Yeah.
I remember that. It's funny that you say that because it must have been exactly that same time.
Yeah, because I was lucky enough to get to meet him and get some pictures with him and stuff. And it's so funny. The guy that at the booth, I was just kind of standing around hoping to get to meet him, just kind of one-on-one without everybody else around. And the lady who's there she goes, you need to get in line because when Alan's done, he's done. He'll walk no matter how many people are here. You know, and it's like, okay, well, I got in line. The guy took my camera and he's like taking pictures of me and Alan. It's so funny. I look like a little kid looking up to Mr. Holdsworth.
Oh, well, that's the best.
Like, you know, it's like standing next to the greatest guitar player ever.
He was the nicest dude. Like, I got lucky, like, Virgil introduced me to him, like, and I got to, like, spend some time with him, and he was always so nice to me, and he said something that I'll never, like, forget. He was so, like, about female guitar players, like, just, you know, being out there and, like, that there shouldn't be a difference and all this stuff, and he was saying, like, I don't get it, like, nobody thinks it's weird when there's great female violinists. They're just violinists, you know, like you don't even need to be female violinists. It's like, why can't it be the same with guitar players? Like, this is really stupid. And he would like bring it up and talk about it. Like, you know, wasn't like, oh, I'm here. So, you know, this is the topic of conversation or anything like that. I wouldn't bring it up either. But like, but he would just like, it would like puzzle him, you know? And I was just like, man, he's just the freaking coolest. Like, he was he was like such a British gentleman, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, great guitar player. It's funny, there's a video online somewhere of when Sean Lane actually got to meet Alan Holdsworth.
Oh,
it's at NAMM, and it's kind of the same thing. Sean's like talking to Alan Holdsworth as his hero. It's pretty cool, man. You know, when you finally get to meet some of your favorite guitar players and musicians that you look up to. So do you have a moment like that where you met somebody that was just like that moment?
I have a lot. I mean, I'm lucky to say I have a lot, but I mean, I think every time I met one of my favorite players, pretty much met, I think, all of my favorite players. Wow, that's a crazy thing to be able to say. But, you know, I think I've fangirled just as hard, whether or not it was visible, but I think I think inside it was the same feeling every time.
Right.
I fangirled when I met Rusty. So.
How did you guys meet?
Well, you want to tell her the story?
Yeah, I can. That's fine.
Sure.
So, I mean, basically, I went down to NAMM, and I think it was 2019, and I met Rusty there because he was at the Ormsby booth, right? He's getting his signature model through them, and we were talking, and of course I had my wife there with me, and we're walking around, and of course I'm pointing out all of these people, and she has no idea who any of them are, you know, because she's just following me around. And I met Virgil, and he was really nice, and I met Per Nilsson, that was really cool. And then we're walking by. What'd you say? I love Per.
Yeah.
We had him on the show too last season.
He's just dude too.
Yeah, great guitar player. And I actually it was funny, I kind of rescued him from this guy who wouldn't leave him alone. I mean, Per's got a lot of people want to talk to him, and this guy just kept like putting his arm on his shoulder. I think he had been drinking or something, and Per's too nice to like say anything.
Yeah, of course.
I went over to him and I said, "Hey Per, can I get your autograph really quick?" And he like looks at me and he's like, "Yeah, sure." And he just like moves forward.
Exactly.
And I said, I couldn't tell if you were done talking to that guy or not. And he's like, I didn't want to say anything. And I was like, okay.
I was done talking to him 20 minutes ago.
Right. And then so then we went and found the Ormsby booth, and then I saw Rusty there with Dino, and I was like, oh my God, there's Rusty Cooley. And she was like, who's Rusty Cooley? And I was like, oh my God. And of course, like it was really interesting because like I had, you know, it's weird when you see somebody that you've seen on screen so many times or videos and, you know, whatever, and then you see him in person. It's just like really oddly surreal. And then I came up, and then he was talking about his signature guitar, which you can kind of see in the background there. There's really cool ones. And we talked about that for a couple minutes, and then that was pretty much it. And then when the whole coronavirus thing happened, so this is like, a year later or so, he opened up some spots for guitar lessons, and I took some from him. And then,
which he didn't really need, but
well, I really just wanted to pick his brain. I got lessons, but it wasn't for guitar, I guess, you know, or specifically like theory, but you know, how to not like look like an idiot when you're talking to people, things like that. Like that was the advice I wanted, how to look cool, you know. And then you know, we just started talking back and forth, and then I asked him if he wanted to be like on a podcast or like, you know, kind of like this, an interview for my YouTube channel. And then he was like, well, what if we just did one together? And then I was like, well, okay, well now it's on. So, and then he can't get rid of me now. So.
Yeah. Yes, it's pretty cool. We've done it's been a great learning experience for me as well. And here we are. And it was one of those things when we said, I was like, dude, why don't we just do our own show? And he's like, okay. And he was like, immediately, all right, then we're going to start February 1st is going to be our launch date. And this was like in, I think, late November or December, right? Yeah. And he's like, all right, so we got to set a date now. It's like, okay, well, let's do it. So it's very driven. And
I'm kind of like that.
I mean, that's amazing. Look how much you've done in such a short time. Like that's the only way shit ever gets done.
Yeah, for real. And I was like, so not ready for all this gear stuff. And, I was like, I'm finally, I believe it. I think I'm finally about up to speed. I've got just about everything.
Well, you see what happened was I was already in process of, because like nobody knew who I was really. So I'm thinking, well, then I have to have nice cameras. I want to make my production look good. So I, make up for maybe not having that many people know me yet, So I was already in route of learning this stuff and getting cameras and how to do like the ISO and how to, all the aperture settings and lighting and how, I had already spent probably hundreds of dollars on courses and just stuff like that. And had no reason to other than just for my own stuff, and then and I'm glad I did, because when he came along, like, he knows all of the stuff about how to get in contact with people. He's got a lot of people that he's really good friends with and all these stuff, but he was like, I don't know how to do any of this camera shit. Yeah. And he was like, I can't, my guitar doesn't come through well. He just had like a little webcam and that was it. Yeah. And then he saw like my stuff looked pretty much exactly as it looks right now. And he was like, I got to get up to that level. And then we help each other. I think it's a nice 50-50
for sure
help. Man. So that's pretty much how we did this. And then I was like, if we're going to do a podcast, I don't want to just like, or a video series, like I don't want it to just be, we're talking to people. I want it to be like a brand, and then the name is important. So
so we've got the whole umbrella thing, and it's just, all kinds of other things we're going to launch underneath it,
Nice.
Lots of cool things.
That. What else are you gonna?
Well, I mean, it's what are we not gonna do? It's one of those things.
All right.
It's gonna be all kinds of stuff. I mean, really, whatever we can do. I mean, from educational stuff to recording and music and everything music. Really, I need to start setting myself up for the future, just documenting everything and recording it in video and just having just this arsenal. I mean, when I moved in here, I've got an office, one of those filing cabinets about this big, and it's just full, all 4 drawers of just music. And then I've got all the stuff that I have outside of that, all the other handwritten tabs. I mean, I've got tabs and stuff and music dating back to when I've been playing guitar about 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I've kept all that stuff. I mean, things that are, I think some people can find of value, as well as, I was always very goal driven and practice schedule oriented. And I have all my practice schedules and goals all the way back to about 2 or 3 years, so you can look back as long as I've been playing guitar, which is a very long time now. And you can see like, in 1985, here was my goal. And I had it written out on a sheet of paper, and then I had my practice schedule, which was my plan of action. So here's my goal. Now here's how I'm going to practice to achieve that goal. I've got all of my, I've kept everything from denial letters on record deals and things like that. It's just, those things are,
people would love so.
And that's not a setback. That's what makes you work that much harder. You know what I mean? So it's all your failures that keep you going and what you learn from that. And I think a lot of people could find value in that. Just
that's
looking
what
back.
I was saying. That I think that's the kind of stuff people do want to see, and they want it to be part of the course, and they wanted to they want to see that their heroes went through similar things. And so if you have all that kind of inventory, although I'm sure it's quite the journey down memory lane to try to consolidate all that stuff. I wonder how that feels, I have a weird relationship with nostalgia, sometimes I think it'll be fun. And then you go 10, 15 years back, you're like, ooh, I feel weird now,
It can be a little bit weird. It's like, I always have a hard time liking what I'm doing in the moment.
Oh, really?
So it takes me a long time or usually around 6 months at least, bare minimum, to be able to go back and listen to what I've done and actually like it.
I think I have the opposite problem.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, oh man, I listened back to playbacks and it's like the tone's not right, or am I playing right, or not?
There's always going to be that.
And then by the time I finish it, I don't want to hear it. because I'm done with it by then. It's like, oh man, I've lived this for too long, and then it'll take probably a good 6 months at least. Then I can listen back to it and go, wow, that was really actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's always fun. I listened to one of the Outworld albums, I don't know, about 6 months ago or something, and listened to it in the entirety, and was like, wow, it's so much better now than it was when I remember doing it.
Yeah. I mean, usually you seem a little, I think you get kinder to yourself as the
Right.
time goes on. But.
Sure. And then you listen back to when you've been playing like 2 or 3 years, because I have students, I'll get a student that comes in that's like pretty much beginner or whatever, and they'll just be like hard on themselves going, oh, I suck. And it's like, no, you don't suck. You're right where you need to be for where you are.
Yeah, you're new. It's new to that, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you can only be so frustrated about something you don't have a lot of experience with.
Right. So I try to be very, very productive in that area and helpful. But yeah, so you listen back, you're playing it 2 years, and it is what it is, And then sometimes you might be surprised. I mean, I have people listen to some of my old recordings like, you'd only been playing 3 years when you were playing Eruptions? Like, well,
Yeah.
I just didn't leave my room. That was it,
Right. Well, exactly. Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy.
To wrap up that, I was just gonna say I used to watch like old YouTube videos of myself when I had like a real shitty little camera, and you're just like, oh God, what was that? Your hair's not long yet, so you look like an idiot. And, so I just all that stuff. But that's my thing. So
sometimes it's like I don't think anybody like enjoys going back to their old YouTube videos. It's just like because even you're just like, oh, even if it's like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought, it's still like
still bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show. It was great to get to meet you. And
I mean, I'm sure we'll meet in real life at some point soon.
Sure.
I feel like I've always known you in a way. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. If you're ever in Houston, let me know. I'd love to come out and see you play.
Likewise, if you're out here too.
Sure, that'd be great. And if nothing else, I'll see you at NAMM probably.
Do you think is there going to be a NAMM? Are there?
I'm not sure. We'll see.
Harry told me they were planning on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know.
So maybe
I won't be there this year though.
You won't be there. What do you got going
on? I just got a lot of stuff I got to do here. I think that's when we're going to start expanding. So
okay.
I'll have to be here for that.
Well, very good. I'm sure I'll see you soon too, man.
Oh yeah.
Well, awesome. I know you got to go, so thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
it was great.
Thanks for having me again. Yeah.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Talk to you later. All right, guys. That was Nili Brosh, I think is how she pronounced it.
Mm-hmm.
And man, she's really great. And she's done. I mean, just reading through her Wikipedia, I didn't realize how much stuff she had done. I mean, I kind of knew about Tony MacAlpine, and I knew about the Cirque du Soleil, but I didn't know that she did like Dethklok and a bunch of other things too, and just like side projects. And so, and a lot of people are like, oh, isn't she just like that YouTube guitar player?
Yeah,
because most people know her from YouTube.
She's done a lot more than most guitar players have. I'll tell you that much, just from the show and getting to know her a little bit. And that's pretty impressive. I think the coolest part was that getting the lasers or whatever rockets shooting off your guitar. That's pretty sick,
dude. That's total Ace Frehley.
That's almost that's a little Rammstein-esque too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get a flamethrower for your guitar. That's super cool.
She's definitely earned. She's done enough to earn probably any guitar player's respect.
Absolutely.
So,
and and the other thing is what she started to talk about the female guitar thing, which we had discussed, to try not to talk about because it shouldn't be a thing, and that's why we chose not to speak about it. So, it's obviously a thing still, but it really shouldn't be. She's right. They don't talk about female violinists or whatever. It's just a violinist,
make the distinction?
Right? We don't talk about really. I don't know. I don't want to get into politics, but it's not really a woman politician or a male politician. They're all politicians.
You're just who you are, I mean, but yeah, the stigma's there because there's just a lot of men in the guitar world. But and the worst thing that I hear that irritates me the most is when people say, "Yeah, she's pretty good for a girl," and you're like, dude, she's pretty good. Like she's good,
she kicks your ass, dude. Shut up.
Yeah,
but I mean, it is a thing. Even like with Christy, she has said things about the way she's been treated in the music industry, and she doesn't play guitar. She's violin and piano, and it kind of took me back. It's like, wow, I didn't really realize it was a thing, but apparently it is.
Well, it's hard when you're not actually in that realm to maybe understand it fully. But all we can do now is say or recognize that it is a thing and say, I mean, here's what I would say. I would feel just as proud to play with you as I would with Nili. as much as I would with any other guitar player, because we're all just guitar players. And if you do your job and you're professional and you're good, that's really what should matter.
That's all that matters, man. Because I mean, if you're just listening to a recording, you can't tell.
It's
not like you can tell a male or female guitar player.
Shut your eyes and shut your mouth and just listen.
I think there's the male problem is it's a female. So as dudes, we look at women.
It could be
that other thing. I'm gonna not get into, but
No, I see what you're saying though. I mean, guys tend to kind of differentiate it for other reasons than just professionalism too, and that needs to stop.
And then there are some chicks out there on YouTube that play guitar that aren't really good, and then they're like wearing scantily clothes, and then they got 1 million views on their videos, and it's not for their guitar playing at all.
There is
that stigmata.
And honestly, I think that is, I don't want to say worse or better or what, but it definitely adds to the negativity that women do face who are trying to be taken seriously as in anything. For
sure. The real serious and truly badass musicians or female guitar players, if you want to put a label on it, because that does put because it's easy to get those all lumped together, because if you don't know any better, then it's like, oh, well, who's this? No, why is this chick got an endorsement? She got big boobs and doesn't play very well. But she's got 1 million views on her video, so give her a guitar, a signature model. So well, I think that we can learn a lot from, like I said, with music, it should be the great bridge between any kind of differences. You can listen to the same song here and you can listen to the same song in another country or as a man or as a woman or whatever, but the song doesn't change. You know what I mean? It should just be the song or the music itself. So listen to Nili, check out her channel, not because she's a woman, but because she's an amazing guitar player. That's right.
And we support her 100%, I think. So
absolutely.
Cool. Absolutely. Well, we'll see you guys. Oh, wait, you got more?
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's what the show's about. Just great guitar players. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. Yeah. Whatever. You could be an alien. I don't care. You play guitar great. Come on the show.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, take it away, Zach.
All right. Well, go ahead and give us a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.